All right, so earlier today we had our front-end observability working group meeting. I showed a chart briefly, and I just kind of want to present it in more detail and answer any questions and talk through my thoughts, and then everybody can kind of be on the same page with that. So I will share my screen if my computer won't freeze. And we've got the control bar. So my idea is to kind of generalize the concept of performance or telemetry or error reporting or any sort of messaging to this concept of like an action channel. So we create a stream provider that can communicate messages to any subscribers, and right now, my idea is like we have a single API for it. We just get a channel, and that channel can be performance or telemetry or any one of these subsets of those. So I want to just open the channel for the diffs app, which is a subset of code review, which is a subset of performance in this context. Sorry, my computer's really janky and slow, so things glitching around. The channel just has a publish message and a subscribe message, so you can put messages in it or you can listen for messages coming out of it. An example in the diffs app, so in the context of like this merge request diffs, we have some interesting things that we want to know about. So we might have these three actions here, like app created, app mounted, and app ready, and we could, those sort of map roughly to some view lifecycle events. So like on before create of our app, we get the correct channel here, which is our performance channel for the diffs app. And then as view goes through, we publish various events into it. So this performance now is an interesting one, like, hey, when the app is created, here's the time that happened. And then once it's mounted after a next tick, that's when it's ready. See if this comment is relevant. Right, so that's just the context of like, we can infer ready based on mounted and next tick. So once we have these channels and messages going through, the generalization of that goes into an aggregator, which subscribes to the top level performance. So you can see, God, everything is so slow. This is really bogging down the computer. So you can see like this, the performance aggregator subscribes to just the top level performance. It doesn't matter what app is inside there. It's just a performance thing. So that maps sort of directly to like this top level performance here. But individual apps can subscribe or can publish messages into these subsets separated by colons, which is just an arbitrary decision on my part here. So the performance aggregator subscribes to every event in this channel. So for every app, every subset, every feature category, it's subscribing to everything. And then it uses some segmenter to decide where to put things. So in this case, it's saying, hey, the merge request diffs app has this particular event that's just occurred, and I know what to do with that. The interesting thing here is because it's subscribing to the performance channel, we can sort of drop that from the beginning, but this is the performance colon merge request. So we can begin segmenting based on subsets of the channel. So this is an optional segmenter, right? So like in the case of just the merge request diffs app, we go through special case handlers that decide where to put it, what to do with it, how to handle certain events coming in. The diffs is very specific to our own use cases, so we're gonna have our own handlers, but the default handler is going to just say, hey, we had an event come in, we'll normalize it to send it to Sentry or Prometheus or wherever. And once it gets through all of its segmenters, we have some assigned handler, and it eventually sends it off to our various adapters. And I've moved things around. And that's basically it. We just generalize the data coming in from anywhere in the application to a normalized format that we then send to these various adapters going out to our APIs. And my arrows got all messed up. That's sad. That's it. So the idea here is I can just send any data. Let me zoom out just a little bit. Wait for the computer. I can send any data over this system. It gets generalized in essentially using these middlewares, a data segmenter. I can send over any of these channels, and it goes out to any arbitrary endpoint. So maybe it's Prometheus, maybe it's Sentry, maybe it's Datadog, maybe it's our own API. We could do kind of anything over this as long as we normalize how you put messages in, how you take messages out, and then the eventual format is handled by sort of some eventual handler that knows the correct format for its outcome. So maybe the default handler is just like, here's all the data, and the more specific handlers know where they're sending things. So that is it. Any questions?
I don't have any questions. It seems like a nice abstraction to me. And I know that in previous calls, you know, one thing Tim had mentioned when I walked us through Sentry, one thing that was mentioned was like, all of these things are called Sentry, but we should wrap them to be agnostic. And it's funny because they are agnostic. They are wrapped. It just says Sentry in the title now. So it's like one more step to abstracting it, which I think sounds useful. I'm curious, Jose, how this compares to the way OpenTelemetry works, if you've played with that more.
Oh, there we go. So the adapter section in Thomas' diagram, that's basically what the OpenTelemetry does. Like what Thomas is doing, which I really like, is allowing us to abstract data so we can send it to whatever service provider that we have. But in this case, OpenTelemetry only works for that last specific part, which says Service A adapter, GitLab API adapter, Service B adapter.
I see.
The OpenTelemetry will basically say, hey, I don't care where do you want to send this information for, I can handle that for you. Basically, we will put OpenTelemetry there and communicate with our third-party services or GitLab API. The only thing with OpenTelemetry is that it's still currently under heavy development, and there is no browser extension yet. So this part we'll have to do ourselves. They only have a node component, so yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So I wonder. So really, then the question is this other stuff of value, right? So like, is the more generic sort of messaging system in front of OpenTelemetry valuable? Because this part, oh God, this smaller part down here is kind of all we really need to generalize performance data to multiple backend systems, and maybe OpenTelemetry can fill that need for us. So is this other stuff useful, I suppose?
Yeah. I'd say.
Yeah, I agree with Jose. No, it's okay. It's fine. We just have the delay. So we keep being polite and waiting, and then being like, I've waited long enough, now I can talk. Yes, I think it's helpful to be able to create a pattern that can be shared app to app, because right now we don't have that. And I particularly like being able to combine middlewares. Like, I think that is a nice pattern for different various things that, you know, there are things we know that basically every single subscription we're going to want to do, for instance, is going to want the feature category, like we were talking about today in the meeting, right? And like now we pull it off the GON and we can have it and it's all set up. And so like, yes, putting that in the base middleware that no matter where it goes, it should always have that. And then going out step by step to add specific middleware does sound very useful to me. And a thing I am particularly interested in that's maybe like the third prong of what we've been talking about, or a second prong of the performance part, is there's the question of like performance for like error budgets and AppDex questions. But I want to make sure that if we're building a way to talk to Prometheus, we're doing something like this where we can send sort of arbitrary performance measurements, because app over app, we do have specific questions. Pipeline authoring, like in your example, much the way that the merge requests diff app has very specific points that you want to be checking. Likewise, so does, you know, the pipelines page, and those aren't even tied to lifecycle events. So it's sort of even more important to be able to like off the cuff be able to call something and know that it's part of the bigger pattern, but be able to say, you know, take a measurement right now, do all this calculation, take a measurement right now, and let us know what's up with that. So yeah, I like it as a pattern for sure.
I think the nice thing about the pattern is it sort of, well, I mean, it's open for discussion. This all makes sense to me because I made it so it makes sense in my brain, obviously, but like separating like, okay, the top level channel is performance, and then here's my feature, and then here's my app, and then here's the actual event that's occurring. This makes it really generalizable for anybody, I think, like you're saying. So we should be able to repeat this pretty simply, like, hey, look at this one that already exists or whatever, like just copy that for your thing and then you're good to go. I hope. That's my hope. I don't know.
Actually, I'm sure you had a chance to read through the backend implementation document that Andrew shared, but your example for your example for the devs apps that talks about how the build lifecycle how we will capture performance, it's very similar to how it's done in the backend. And then I actually kind of surprised that you kind of had the same idea, but like the implementation for the backend is completely different, of course, compared to how we will do it in JavaScript. Right. But the basic idea remains the same. So I'm pretty sure we can grab how they did some of the service levels indicators for performance and use your abstraction to help us do that on the front end.
That would be excellent. I hope that we can, sort of asymptotically normalize on the same patterns, both on the front end and the back end. Okay, so at least there's some validation that this isn't a terrible idea. So I suppose I will I'll get a link to this page so people can kind of view my little comments and those sorts of things. Grab a picture of it because you can export it as a PNG, and then I'll post this video into the channel, and then we can open this up for a wider discussion. Does that sound good, everybody? Cool. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate your questions and your feedback and your time. So I hope we can move forward to something like this, because I'm hoping for a generalized sort of system to come out of this working group. So.
Yeah, it looks good to me. Thanks so much. And I like to hear, Jose, that it's aligned a bit with the back end, because yes, if we can be hooking into lifecycle events for the standard ones we want and add arbitrary ones to the other ones we want within the same system, then we've, not made it 3 pieces, but kept it at 2 and like sort of serve everyone's needs. So I love it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. I will see you later.
Thank you.